Well, I'm Yoann de Roeck. I'm a graphic designer, teacher, and now PhD candidate in epigraphy under the supervision of Mark Smith, the paleographer that we heard yesterday, this morning, I can't remember, at École pratique des hautes études, and Alice Savoie at the ANRT, Atelier National de Recherche Typographique. So, Fishing Figures, what a beautiful title, isn't it? I stole it, of course. I sold it to an artist and writer, she's Barbara Jones, and she wrote a short article entitled Fishing Figures back in 1965 in a typographic magazine. This article shows mainly photographs of numerals painted on the hulls of fishing boats. All those photos were taken by Herbert Spencer himself. And this short article doesn't say much. The text only talks about some kind of questions about the meaning of those figures, the meaning of the fish hook stems there. She is wondering why the diamond decoration inside some figures and why suddenly a curious presence of Blackletter and so on, but only questions. This is a kind of article mainly composed by photographs and a few wanderings. Those photos, they were all taken in Finistère. Finistère, the west part, extreme west part of Brittany, which is the west part of France. This is where I'm going to take you today for a short trip, kind of journey. We are going to visit together 4 ports of this part of Finistère, which is the French Cornouailles. This is where I was born, of course. Well, this daguerreotype is one of the earliest photographs that shows a Breton fishing boat. We are in around 1840s because, as you can see on that wonderful picture, nothing is written on the hull of the boat. There is nothing at all. So we can be sure it dates before 1843, because at that time, 1833, there is going to be a convention, a kind of deal conclude between the 2 countries, 2 kingdoms, France and Great Britain, that will force soon all fishermen from both countries to display distinctive marks at the front of their boats to distinguish French and English fishermen. And this law was to avoid what we called the oyster riots or oyster wars in the Channel Islands, once again, and it's not over yet. Well, 1853, the decree is quite simple. The decree says now every port is going to get its own initial letter, so it's M for Marseille and so on, and the letters, the signs, this initial letter precedes a number, a registration number, and the marks shall be 25 centimeters high, painted in white on the black hull of the boat, and that's it, nothing else. So on the both sides of the bow, okay, and that's all. So the decree, they forgot to talk about the style, the letter forms to use, to employ, and well, I'd say a big mistake for them, but lucky for us, because it was all open for fishermen to choose their letter forms. And that's it, what we are going to see now visiting 4 ports in Finistère. We start with letter A. A is for Audierne. Audierne is a small port near the Point du Raz, for those who know this part of France, the furthest point of France on the Atlantic Ocean. And we have only few photographs of Audierne before 1900. This one shows a boat which had the number A207, called Notre-Dame de Bon Secours, built in 1890. This one is called Mitrailleuse, machine gun, and was built 2 years later. And if we zoom a little bit, we can notice that at the time, 10 years, a decade before 1900, in Audierne, the letter forms are not fixed. The style is not stable, and on the left you have, they're both inherited from modern faces. We can guess the Dido face behind them. One is just holding kind of bifurcated serif or Tuscan serif or maybe Philocalian as you wish, and the other one with a broken bar is so as such a contrast that it seems almost sans serif. Well, let's move on. We have more pictures of Audierne after 1900. Note the wonderful rooster emblem on this one. And now, for some reason, I don't know yet exactly, the Blackletter is gradually taking hold in the Audierne fleet. So, from 1910, about around 1910 onward, every boat in Audierne has the same lettering. It's a splendid A with wavy feet, wind in the sails. And as you can see, it's not only painted on the wood, it's also carved in it. So, I don't know if it's clear, but there is kind of a deep engraving into the hull. And that's to help fishermen each time they need to wash or to make careening, you know about careening or washing the hull of the boat twice a year, they can find the outline of each sign and don't have to build it again. A bit later, another sample of those letters. You know, you can see how it fits perfectly with the figures, which I'm going to talk to you soon, the fishing figures, with those extension beard or barbs extensions. Well, of course, in Audierne, this phenomenon is not continuous and the style is not homogeneous, so you can still find some other inspiration, I mean, Tuscan letters, modern types, and here and there. But the Blackletter is widespread in Audierne. This one is only, at my knowledge, the only original plank, carved plank that's still in existence today. And this letter A, the people in Audierne still today are so proud of this sign that it's now the logotype of the town. So you can imagine that those way of writing is all about identity. Identity of maritime people, identity of fishermen. Now, in fact, in Brittany and many other places, the years of fishing are gone. It's all over. This industrial activity is gone, is all over. But the memory, the legacy with this sign still exists, and people in Audierne are still proud of their history. The case of Audierne is really interesting because in those years, 1975, an ethnographer called François Baudouin wrote about, was one of the first to write about the maritime people and the customs, habits, tales, legends, folklore, and so on. And he was the first to talk about superstition and said that those way of doing such lettering, and he's talking especially about the barbs, the beard extension, the moustache, call them as you like. And to him, I don't know where he heard this tale, but some certain figures were considered lucky ones, the round one, 3, 5, etc. And those with a vertical stem, which are 1, 4, 7, were considered bad omens. So to protect the boat, we had to change them, to turn them into fishing figures. So those extensions are to make those numerals and bring good fortune on the boat. Next stop, letter B. B is for Belle-Île. Belle-Île is a small island off the Quiberon Peninsula, and its location as an island makes it an important, what we call a port of call. That means a place where all fishermen from all over Brittany can stop at the same place, rest, maintain their boats, and so on. So this is a kind of junction point that is very important because it's an ideal place for technical exchanges, cultural exchanges, and so on. So I guess the copycat or the way of looking at other signs and to want to do the same or differently was maybe born in those kind of harbors. Belle-Île has two letters, B and I, to avoid confusion with other ports, like Brest, for instance. So prior to 1900, the marks are quite commonplace, maybe more inspired by fat faces than early modern types, but you can note the punctuation, the bullet between the letters and the numbers to avoid confusion, to distinguish the I letter from a 1 figures. Another example, I won't say a lot about them, but you know, when the fishing figures start to spread on the island on Belle-Île, so the letter takes the same extensions. Another beautiful case, 1901. Well, it's clear, it's so obvious that a Dido style was behind and was at a kind of template before turning into a fishing lettering. Another example, maybe the most accomplished, I found in Belle-Île, with this diamond decoration, which was obviously very popular in the maritime world. I have no original plank for Belle-Île. Unfortunately, this one, BR, is for Brest. But as you can see, that means also how the B are so similar that we can tell how the style was traveling from one port to another easily. Next letter, next port, C for Concarneau. Concarneau is one of the largest ports for fishing sardine, especially, and a few years later for that was one of the first ports to start fishing for tuna fish. And lucky for us, we have a very rare, old, beautiful document of Concarneau that dates 1856, 57, and with one of the first registration mark. We are only 3-5 years after the decree. So this is one of the earliest mark we know. And as you can see, well, I'm not a type designer, so please be cool with me. I'm only drawing them the best I can. Drawing them just to understand the shape. That's my point, to understand the shape. And well, you can notice it's obviously a modern typeface that is the template of it. You can notice still the presence of punctuation between the glyphs. What is interesting in Concarneau is that Concarneau belongs to a district, a maritime district, which is not Concarneau but Quimper. Quimper with letter Q, which was the big city next to Concarneau. So before being CC, as we saw on the previous slide, it was QC for Quimper-Concarneau. And this might explain, I'm pretty sure of it, the strange look that has this C, because it's not a C, it's half a Q. And maybe, I don't know if it's clear and obvious for you, but you can still guess the kind of stroke or outline behind the C. 10 years later, the lettering became really wider, rounder. To me, the Concarneau style is one of the most beautiful. Let's have a look behind the boats and behind the fishermen. And let's have a look at their other shelter, which is the buvette, the bar. Because this is, obviously, this was made by a professional. Or, I don't know, maybe not a professional, but that means that catalogs of sign, painting, lettering, etc., were widespread also in those ports. Though this kind of signs make me sometimes think that it could be also a professional that drew certain letters or figures. I don't know. We'll see. Concarneau is also known for their many emblems, Republicans emblems with the French flag, for instance, or here it's a religious one that pays homage to Virgin Mary, which was very much revered by fishermen. Concarneau, still Concarneau, I love it. Cool. The style is now really homogeneous, really, really warm, and so accomplished that it allows occasional customs and some kind of fancy ways of drawing certain letters. See the figures 4 and 7. I never saw that elsewhere. Well, you can notice the glyphs here are only painted. In Concarneau, they are not carved, and because they are only painted, I think they had the freedom to do so, because carve those shapes, it might be harder, quite impossible. The star is carved, and we have, lucky for us, we have first in those years there are the first autochrome that can give us information about those ornaments, which are not only about letter shapes and so on, but also the color of what we call the liston here, the color of the star here, that is a tribute to the Stella Maris, Mother Mary. A late example, look at number 7 once again, and with a semicolon, punctuation between the twos. Once again, be cool with me. This is not a rule. This is not a regular evolution of the same glyph. Those are examples I've seen in Concarneau. There are many others. Part of my job is to collect them, and when I have a new case, a new instance that deserves to be drawn, I draw it and I try to locate it, to date it, and to make my database bigger. One plank of Concarneau, see the top serifs, deadly sharp. And our last stop, if I have a few minutes, D for Douarnenez, home, might. Well, this port is located at the bottom of the bay of Douarnenez. That was once so rich in fish, really so rich in fish, that Douarnenez had a strong reputation for fishing. Sardine, of course, and mackerel. At the turn of the century, the city of Douarnenez numbered around 11,000 inhabitants, 150 bars, no kidding, and 600 what we call chaloupe, long boats maybe, chaloupe, a boat for fishing. They all look the same, impossible to distinguish. Imagine a parking with 600 cars, all the same model, the same brand, the same color, and so on. So they are impossible to distinguish. A few ways of writing of those years, you know, the letter spacing was quite tight at the time, which make it quite difficult to read from a distance. It's really hard on old pictures, on old photographs to not make a confusion between 5 and 3, for instance. This is a beautiful example of how severe and high contrast were those shapes at the time. We are in 1885. And then all begins to shift. There is something that is happening in Douarnenez, obviously, because it begins with shy ornaments, like pearl ornaments in the middle of the stems, but it is also the first appearance of the first case of Blackletter in Douarnenez, with a bizarre punctuation between each glyph, and something that is really weird to me is fracture numbers. I don't know how to call them. But those years around 1885, 1890, they are crucial for my research because something is happening. They are looking for something, obviously, in every direction. They are testing letter forms. You can notice Blackletter, the Dido or modern faces are there, still there, obviously. And soon, one glyph is born. We called it the des poissons, fish like D, maybe fish like D. We still call it that way today, le des poissons. And, well, it coexists with Blackletter for about 10 years. So you have in all the fleet in Douarnenez, you have this way of doing Blackletter with fishing figures, and you have this kind of weird shape that is starting to design and to accomplish. Let's, well, see few Gothic Blackletter example. It's a, well, to me it's beautiful, of course, but think hard to draw when you're not a professional, and maybe almost impossible to carve. That's a rather curious choice for marking boat. So the Blackletter in Douarnenez was dropped, finally dropped, for the des poissons. But I'm pretty sure that Blackletter helped a lot to define a style and to bring something that was really important is exaggeration, swashes, freedom to do kind of joy, a taste for beauty, and so on. So even if Blackletter was dropped, something was in motion there. So you can see in those years how the des poissons was established and perfected. And there, obviously, you can imagine how deep it's carved into the wood. So, obviously, with experiment, you can imagine how the tool, I don't know if it's a knife or a gouge or chisel, that was used to carve, but I'm pretty sure the tool helped to find the right shapes and to extend the barbs. Samples. Well, at this point, what is interesting is that the glyph is there, but it's not fixed. I mean, each ship owner, each fisherman can take it and make some small variation on it, adding or removing ornaments, switching from a pure and simple shape to the most demonstrative ones. So it's like a game around this shape. Legibility, readability, no way, it's not the point at all. And this is a big question for me. What were the gendarmes and authorities did about this? More samples after 900. Well, and I will end with it. I haven't found yet a clear photograph of a fisherman while carving his number. The only pictures or photographs we have, they are showing men and even young boys, but they are not carving, they are only painting the numbers after the careening and the washing of the boats. So here is one, beautiful one. This one is posing, it poses for the photographer. And on that one you can see even a child is repainting, he repaints the clover emblem between the letter D and the first figure 1. So that work, it's quite mysterious to me. Who did that? A child? A craftsman? A sign painter? A professional? A fisherman? They were not speaking French. Most of them were totally illiterated. Well, in fact, I found one photograph. It's not true. I found one. You see that guy bent on his work? This is the only photograph I found. There, you can see his hand. Apparently, he needs strength to do his work. And if we look at it with a microscope, well. But according to me, there is something there. And I ask sculptors, I ask carpenters, it's not a knife, it's the wood is too hard and too dry to work and to deep that, to carve that deep into the wood. You need carpenter tools like chisel and so on. Well, thank you very much for listening to me. So guys, thank you.
Thank you.
And if you have any question.
Yeah, so I see that, I see you have come with a fan club as well. So of course we have time for one question.
Okay.
So yes, there is a question.
When will be the book published?
Are you publisher yourself? I'd like to. Well, most of people are saying me or giving this advice. You write your thesis on one side and you write the book on the other, so that you won't have to do the work 2 times. Yes, I'd like to. Those pictures are expensive. Some of them belong to private collections and so on. So this material is hard to find in high resolution also, etc., etc. But yes, I'd love to. I'd love to make a book, maybe books, one for each port. And I'm talking with friends of mine, fellows, that were asking the same question about the fonts. When do we we'll get the open type for Douarnenez in 19 and so on? We can. Everything is possible. I don't know yet. For now, I'm collecting and trying to understand phenomena. But yes, a book and fonts will be there. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Well, we have to thank him for this amazing work that he's doing. I wouldn't imagine anybody actually going in and searching for boats. And thank you for the tour in all the ports.
Okay, you're welcome.
Okay.